Hey McGinn community, it's good to see you. It's Mr. Lohn, and I am coming to you still from the United States Olympic Trials for swimming here in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone next week, which will be our last week of read alouds for the year. But for today, I'm going to do a read aloud to end this week that applies to a holiday that was just made into a federal holiday, and it will be celebrated tomorrow, June 19th. It's called Juneteenth. And I know we've spoken about that in class a little bit, and we're going to do a little bit here with this book on the holiday Juneteenth. Here we go. In order to understand the importance of Juneteenth, it is important to know something about African American history. The first African Americans arrived in America at Jamestown, Virginia in 1619. At this time, Virginia was a colony that belonged to England. It had many farms and plantations. These first African American men and women worked on the farms and plantations as indentured servants to pay for their passage to America. But as time went on, Africans were brought to America to work as slaves. As more colonies were formed, plantation owners needed more slaves for labor. Millions of African slaves were brought to America between the 1680s and 1865. Many worked on plantations that raised tobacco, rice, and cotton. The colonies wanted to become their own country, and on July 4th, 1776, the colonists declared their freedom and fought against Great Britain in the Revolutionary War. The colonies won their freedom and became known as the United States of America. Today, the United States celebrates this freedom or independence on July 4th, which is called Independence Day. But not all Americans became free on July 4th, 1776. African Americans remained slaves. After the Revolutionary War ended, most slave owners lived in the southern part of the United States. Many people in the North were against slavery. The North and South could not agree on many issues, and one of the biggest issues was slavery. As a result, 11 states in the South seceded or left the United States in 1860 and 1861. The Confederate States breaking away from the Union began the American Civil War. Abraham Lincoln was president during the Civil War. He did not believe that people should be slaves. On January 1st, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, a document that granted slaves in every state their freedom. Because the country was at war, the South did not obey this proclamation. The Civil War ended on April 9th, 1865. When the South surrendered to the North. All slaves in the Confederate States were finally supposed to be free. Because there were no telephones, televisions, or internet, the news of emancipation spread slowly. Some people did not find out about the end of the war until weeks or months later. Some slave owners did not tell their slaves about the end of the war. These African Americans did not know that they had been freed. The army was sent into the South to make sure that African American people understood their new freedom. Texas was the farthest state that had seceded from the Union. African Americans there were some of the last people to hear about the Emancipation Proclamation and the end of the Civil War. On June 19, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger read a document called General Order No. 3 to the citizens of Galveston, Texas. This order explained that according to the Emancipation Proclamation, slaves in Texas were free. This was about 2.5 months after the end of the Civil War. It was almost 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation had been issued. The Constitution is the chief set of laws in the United States. Amendments or changes have been made and added to the Constitution to update the laws. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified or approved in 1865. This amendment officially ended all slavery in the United States. Today, African Americans remember the end of slavery with the Juneteenth holiday. It is celebrated every June 19th, the same day African Americans heard about their freedom in Galveston, Texas in 1865. This is about the first Juneteenth celebrations. On June 19, 1866, 1 year after Major General Granger read General Order No. 3, the African Americans in Texas proudly celebrated the first Juneteenth holiday. They continued the tradition each year thereafter. These early celebrations often began with parades with floats and marching bands playing music. Former slaves marched proudly in their towns. During slavery, there were even laws against African Americans dressing up. They could not walk the streets freely either. Now, African Americans were free to dress in clothes that they wished and march in the streets as they wanted. Juneteenth was a serious time. The Emancipation Proclamation and General Order No. 3 were read. Former slaves told stories about their lives and how they fought against slavery. Religious leaders, educators, and former slaves gave moving speeches. They encouraged African American people to live and work honestly. African Americans went to church services to give thanks to God for their new freedom. Juneteenth was also a time for fun. Family members gathered for picnics and family reunions. Lamb, pork, and beef were cooked in barbecue pits. These were special meats. Not everyone could afford these foods every day. Other special foods included red soda pop and homemade cake and ice cream. There were many ways to celebrate, and some African Americans listened to music and attended dances. Others went fishing. But some of the most popular activities were playing baseball and watching rodeos. All of these traditions started in Texas. Some African Americans left and moved to other states, such as Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, California, and Florida. They took these traditions with them and celebrated Juneteenth in their new locations. And now, with Juneteenth added as the 11th federal holiday in the United States with a few days ago, Juneteenth is now officially something that we can celebrate, and it should have been celebrated long before. But that was just a little bit of background of how the holiday came to be, what it means, and what went into the creation of this holiday. And I hope that was a little bit of background for all of you. So again, enjoy your weekend. We've got 1 week to go, and we'll see you Monday. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody back at school. Have a good one.